Good morning and happy Friday. We're so glad you're here to be with us at this ICAT Playdate. My name is Phyllis Newbill. I'm an associate director in one of several centers within ICAT. I'm in the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts. And I need to get my clipboard so that I remember what things I need to say. Thank you. A few housekeeping things before we get started. We are streaming as usual this morning, so today's presentation will exist online in real time and also after this event. There are pastries and coffee. Hope you will enjoy those. We have those every Friday. In order to justify pastries and coffee for the folks who keep the records at the university, we do need you to sign in on our little sign-in sheet, so I'll pass that clipboard around. If you are a Virginia Tech faculty member for whom PDN or Professional Development Network credit is helpful, just make sure you register for that. You can use the QR code on the clipboard, or you can just go to it as you know how to do, and then just check in with me and I can make sure that you get credit for being here. If you're online, good morning, thanks for joining us. And if you need PDN credit for joining us, please send me a note via email, or you can just use the questions link there on the stream. When you have questions, we'll have some time at the end for questions. So when you have questions, I'll come to you with the microphone, so we'll be able to hear you online. And if you're online, just use that questions link. In the way of announcements, most of our things have passed, which is great. We are still looking for a few more exhibitors at Hokie for a Day, so if you are looking for an outreach opportunity with fifth graders, just check in with me after the event. I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Sweta Banya and to talk about what we're covering today. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on a rainy day. My name is Sweta Banya. I'm a faculty in the English department. And with my team today, I have Alexa Smith, who is a PhD student in computer science at CI. And Suwin Kim, who is an undergraduate student who are both part of this project and have done a lot there. And we are also representing Dr. Finda Yehudia Williams, who could not be here today, and Dr. Margaret Webb, who has graduated and who contributed to this project. So thank you so much for being here again. I will call you guys when your presentation time comes. I'm going to start us ahead. So in this presentation today, I'll be talking about overall project, our research questions, methods, our findings, as well as our demonstration of a prototype that we developed out of this project. And we're really grateful for ICAT for supporting our project. And I'll also talk a little bit about the future work. So our project started with a discussion of, how do we support hospital educators? And this is a very niche community. And a lot of times people don't know who they are and what their professional roles are within the hospital systems. So hospital educators are designated individuals who support hospitalized children who are there for a long-term care or short-term care and who cannot go to school because of their hospitalization. And these educators try to fill the gap of their school education while they are hospitalized. So in other parts of the world, this is a little bit more common. And in the US, it is, even though hospital educators exist, their roles and their profession is not as discussed in literature and research. So we thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to think about who they are and also what their technology needs are, given the swift development in the technologies. So the hospital educators are licensed educators, licensed teachers. They provide special education while children are in the hospital. Most of them will have a master's degree program with no formal medical training. And they typically work like full-time positions within one institution, one hospital, or sometimes they move around the locations. They are sort of like communication bridge between medical care, academia, and also the parents. And they sometimes help with not only just education, but like healthcare and other stuff related with that specifically related with schools. Um, and they really help the hospitalized children to provide educational continuity. And I think this is very important for those who are in long-term care and who stay in hospital for longer. And the challenge that they have is that they have to teach almost everything, and they have to tailor the needs of each student, their grade, with whatever grade they are currently in, and they need to support where the students are. So that's something that they are challenged with. So we partnered with a hospital educator, Nadra, who, and that's kind of like how we bring participatory as well as community engagement research to this project. Nadra is a hospital educator who supported us with this project since the beginning. And we conducted this research to understand specifically what their technological needs are, and could sort of technology that something similar to a generative AI can help them. So that's kind of like why we conducted this research. And we also found that in the US context, very less attention has been given to this particular community. So a lot of like studies around hospitalized children or children in the hospital are like focused on students, their development, their education, rather than what hospital educators' needs are. And I think that is where we fulfill the gap. So we had a couple research questions that we started this project with. What are their current communication and professional practices? How do they adapt to different needs of the children? What are their teaching practices? And what role technology can play in engaging and educating students? How do we support them with technology? So with these research questions, we did 2 different types of qualitative study. First level was 4 different semi-structured interviews. So this community is very difficult to reach, and because they deal with children, a lot of them wouldn't want to talk with us, and they are overworked, and they would not answer the emails. So we were able to interview 4 different individuals for this research, and we, rather than like a whole qualitative study, we present this as a case study of these 4 individuals. The participants were hospital educators across different types of hospital settings, in acute care, psychiatric care, long-term care units, and their experiences range from like being early career, people who have just started their work, to the veteran educators, and they served students population through elementary school to high school levels. So this is where I can think of like how much range did they have to cover. And each interview lasted around 60 to 90 minutes. I already talked about community collaboration. Now, Alexa, would you mind coming here to talk about the speed dating?
Hello, everyone. So the second part of the study, after we understood kind of their hospital educator experiences, we conducted a speed dating study where we developed 4 scenarios, low fidelity, kind of like a comic strip style of different tools, AI assisted tools for hospital educators, and they ranked them from least to most impact on a scale of 1 to 5. Our tools were ranged from like communication with other hospital educators, communication with families and the doctors, an assessment tool, and a curriculum development tool. So our highest impact, or our highest tool ranking was the communication with hospital educator. other hospital educators. And this was because, as Dr. Banya had said, like the hospital educators is a very hard to reach community. And our participants described it being hard to network with other people within their profession. So they wanted a tool to share resources and learning curriculums and guides and experiences with others so that they can help support their students and then also find support professionally as well. So.
Thank you. In the vein of time, I'll just talk through a little bit about the qualitative methods research, results from qualitative study. We learned about, their professional communication patterns, what their work practices are, what are the technology challenges, and Alexa already mentioned that it's hard for them to communicate with each other, and that's kind of one of our major findings that led us to design a prototype that would help them network among each other. And some of them also did mention about, integrating technology in their professional practice that will help them design lessons in a quick manner, and they can tailor it with like specific students' needs. They have their perception, and some of them thought like AI integration was good in their curriculum. Some of them were not so keen about that. And they already do use quite a bit of technology in their own systems and in their own hospital systems, so some of them were not so keen. Now, I would like to invite Sue to discuss the prototype.
Hello. So based on our research and interviews and surveys with the participants, we created a hospital educator network forum where they can communicate with other hospital educators and share resources and also network and expand their reach. So this is the home screen. It was inspired by Slack and Discord and other very common community-based platforms such as like Reddit or Substack. And once the user clicks into a thread, they can interact with other users. They can post their own thoughts, upload files, also do audio input if they can't text, also include tags so it's more effective and efficient to communicate with others. While the participants wanted AI summary feature, which they can turn on and off in their preferences. Once you click into a post inside a thread, you can see the other's interaction with the post and also interact themselves. And users can also create thread groups. They can also include tags in their thread groups and invite other users for co-admin for more effective communication. And we also included individual chat features where they can have one-on-one chats with other users, also create group chats so they can have more personal and in-depth communication.
Thank you, Sue. So that is a prototype that we developed based on our interviews as well as our speed dating study. So around 4 to 8 people that participated in this study. So based on that, we really focused on designing communication infrastructure rather than, we started with thinking like, oh, they might need a lot of help in generative AI type tool that focuses on lesson planning, and they might do this, but their need mostly was communication and networking needs. So for future directions, our partnership was, I'm in the English department with technical and professional communication background, and Dr. Williams is in computer science with human-computer interaction. So we were thinking like, how do we both bridge our expertise in communicating what future directions this community might need. So we kind of recommend an approach of developing communicative infrastructure that incorporated with AI that will help hospital educators, that will emphasize their, their need for network development, their own professional development, as well as being in a collaborative space. So because I already gave you background that they are very niche community, almost often excluded from the larger other professional identities in the hospital setting. So the other thing that we would like to recommend is this approach might involve establishing educator advisory panels or professional advisory network across the region, and that helps them like collaborate with each other, talk about each other's practices, and also discuss like what are their actual needs and how do they come together as a community to build each other. And finally, when we were thinking of development of this prototype, we regularly collaborated with one hospital educator. So she would give us feedback and she would say, okay, this does not work for these people. These people's names should not be there anyhow. We should not be represented anyhow because we have to anonymize them. Or certain kind of guidance that we as researchers didn't have that community experience. So having community member as our partner kind of help us bridge that gap. So this also gives us, when you are thinking of community engaged work, when you are thinking of actually going to a community with an idea of support, you actually need to partner with the community members themselves and make them part of your research, not just as a participant, but as an equal. So one of the papers that will come out actually in March in one leading technical communications journal called IEE, Transactions on Professional Communication. Nadra is one of the authors. So we not only invited Nadra as our partner in research, but also as an author of our paper. So that's how we are honoring our partnership with the community and also like really participating with her in the design process. So some of the things that has evolved out of ICAT support. So for me as a scholar, in the English department, getting support to do interdisciplinary work is kind of rare, and also like across the campuses. So I'm in liberal arts, and I'm partnering with another PI in computer science. So this gave me an opportunity to really practice the interdisciplinary muscle. And how do we talk across disciplinary differences to do community engaged work? Though the work that we did is hospital education related, but in this we did interdisciplinary research, we did community engaged research, which is what I identify as, and it kind of evolved into different types of grants and applications that have submitted. We all know like grant schemes these days is difficult, but I submitted a career award in engineering directorate with like a lot of interdisciplinary knowledge, and recently I submitted a Mellon Foundation letter of interest that talks about actually designing prototypes that I learned from this project. I also have submitted American Council of Learned Societies is a smaller foundation type grant-giving agency, like smaller scale grants. So that also deals with digital justice related project, also related, it's focused on prototype design. So even though for me, we did this one project with one specific community, I think it gave me an idea and opened up a lot of opportunities for me to focus on other types of grants and seek other interdisciplinary partnerships and projects. So our team is really grateful for this opportunity from ICAT. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing your work with us, Dr. Banya. This is, and I really appreciate you talking about how the ICAT grant especially brought all that together. What questions do we have in the room or online? Yeah, y'all can come up so you can.
Thank you. You may have discussed this, but can you talk a little bit about what is the organizational structure for these educators? Do they work for the hospital, or they do? Okay.
It can range as well. So some did work for the hospital, some work for the school, more connected to the school system as well. And it just depends also with the type of hospital or medical facility that they're working with too. And that can also, you know, some have more restricted environments where, you know, they can't teach the students, or they can't work with certain technologies because it may cause harm to some of the students or the patients there as well. So it can range. So.
And the people that we interviewed range from different types of settings as well. Like some of them were actually working inside the hospital. For example, our community partner, Nadra, works at the hospital. And there were other whom we cannot name. They represented, I think one of them represented like a larger society where they would just go in and out in the hospitals. So they range from different types of settings.
We had a question that came in online about how the hospital teachers connect with the students. Are they always in person, or do they sometimes connect online?
Oh, sure, yeah. So usually they're in person. They either go like from room to room, or one worked in kind of like a classroom setting. So the students would come in, and the nurses would bring them in, and then they would work with them in group settings too. But again, like from talking with them, a lot of their environments differ too. So sometimes some of the hospital educators only have like 15 minutes to work with the student, because then the doctor had to come in as well. But they used online portals and things to help communicate with other their teachers or the school system to get like the metrics as well. So
great, thank you. Oh, wait, Tom's got one.
So I have a process question that's in a couple of parts. One is, you touched on the interdisciplinary nature, and could you say a little bit more about how the team worked? Was it, did you meet regularly as a team, or was it sort of a toss it over the wall process, or somewhere in between? And then the second part of my question is, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? And this is for all three of you, so.
So if I'm understanding, the first part is about interdisciplinary nature, how it evolved. So yeah, I think like when Dr. Williams and I had met in a different setting earlier, prior to this grant, and when I saw the call, especially focused on medical and hospital-related work, I reached out to her and we talked about like this specific idea. So it did start with like brainstorming about the project, and I had no idea about the hospital educators community. She introduced them to me, and I thought that was a great area of the study that I have never, we teach a lot of computer science students in the English department, but never talked about what hospital educators' needs are. And I think like once we received the grant, I think it just started with regular meetings, setting up, and we work in very different disciplinary environment. And Dr. Williams, I remember like we started with like, what is our communication style? Talking about that. We started with what is our, what time of the day we usually respond to emails. So she created a form or like topics to discuss. So it started with that, and it was like regular meetings over the summer. We also like regularly met with Nadra, and in the fall, I believe, Alexa, you joined us. yeah, as a research assistant for this project, and regular meetings and discussing like how do we reach out to participants, dividing the work. I took the little bit more load on trying to find out literature in different disciplines, and I'm really good at that. So I took that part while Dr. Williams would try to coordinate with NADRA to find hospital educators. And at some point, we could not find a lot of people. As you can see, our data pool is really small. And then we did reach out to Sarah Parker, who is also, I think she also supported this grant, right? So, and she connected actually with some of the people in hospital settings. So establishing that network was also important to us. Sorry, I'm giving a rundown of a timeline. But I think like regular meetings and involving students and really understanding each other's differences also helped. And at some point, we were saturated with the data. We needed like extra plan, and I think like at some point we did need to it was not all la la land or rosy. We did need to navigate our own. I was trying to, collect my dossier like for my tenure. Dr. Williams is just starting to set up her lab, so there were a lot of different other outside things that affected our communication, and we had some time communication breakdown, to be very honest, but we did navigate that. And we came out of that, and we have like great students. Dr. Maggie Wave, who helped us with this project, is now at Cornell, and she's from engineering education. So this project kind of allowed us to like tap into different types of interdisciplinary students and invite them to the project. If I were to do this over again, I think I would reach out to more hospital educators and try to expand the data pool a little bit more, and maybe like, we didn't go to hospitals. We interviewed them, but I think that's my take. Alexa, do you have your...
Yeah, I mean, I think in the area, we had a hard time finding hospital educators within like the Roanoke Valley, Montgomery area. So that was also a struggle, because I think I came on in the second half of the project and did the sketches for the speed dating, and me and Maggie collaborated regularly, at least bi-weekly with the team to get feedback and then reach out and email, cold calling hospital educators. I will say, if I could do it over again, I wish we could have had more connections with the HEAL Association, which is like a hospital educator group. And we kind of found out about them later in the process. So we are still trying to actively create a connection with them. And they have a conference coming up in April that we're trying to like be a vendor and get more feedback just on the prototype and on our sketches and some of our findings, and just create that connection with hospital educators too. So I guess that's something we're trying to do now, even though so yeah.
I joined really last minute, so definitely, yeah, I joined in January, so definitely having more time to have more in-depth prototype and more details on the prototype.
That's great. Well, we are at time, so I want to thank you all so much for sharing your work with us and for sharing how the ICAT grant has moved you forward. There's still more pastries and coffee, so please enjoy and continue conversations as you wish. We'll be back next week with more fun things and more food and drink, so we'll see you next time. Have a great weekend.